And everyone's going to be talking about missing Erling Haaland, but they seem to have been able to operate without Erling Haaland as well. And there's certain balance that Julian Alvarez brings to the side. But the concern perhaps for Manchester City this season, and this might just be a reflection over the last 5 weeks or so, is how they are defensively. Have they looked a bit vulnerable to you, Dimitar?
To be honest, I don't have any concern about Man City. I know they'll be fine. It was the same story last season when they were trailing behind Arsenal, and then all of a sudden they know what to do and they become champions. Like any team, they have ups and downs. They can concede goals, and if you're clever enough and you know how to attack them, when to attack them, sometimes with speed, sometimes with cleverness, sometimes with shots outside the penalty box, and you're quick to react to the whole situation before them, you have a chance to score, as we see on the clips here.
14 goals in 7 matches, which is a little bit unusual by City standards. Why have they been able to concede that many goals, do you think?
But, as we spoke, they play bravely. Guardiola wants them to be brave, sometimes man on man in their own half, like leaving spaces to defend. But this is how they play, because Guardiola trusts his players. The players trust each other, and sometimes even the defenders, they'll be like telling the midfield players, go on, attack, I'll be fine. Sometimes, obviously, they are not fine because they can concede goals, but this is how they play, and they take chances.
Yeah, I think that Pep Guardiola believes that across the course of a season, the way he demands his players to play, the way they're capable of playing, will ultimately give them results. And you know, we finished on that clip there, and obviously City went 1-0 behind against Luton. And I looked at Manchester City in the second half, and I thought they played with an aggression and a determination and a real desire, because they know that they shouldn't be losing to a Luton Town. And I thought they were really good in the second half because of that grit, not necessarily their great play or anything, but that grit. They've got all aspects of the game, Manchester City, haven't they? They can be beautiful, they can be ugly, they can score wonderful goals, they can score scrappy goals, and they've just had a phase where they've conceded quite a lot of goals by their high standards.
Yeah, but do you feel that oppositions fear them just a little bit less? It seems like this season teams are pressing them more, or just having a real go at them at times, more than perhaps last season.
Well, my feeling is that most sides against Manchester City, we expect to get beaten. So sides are saying, well, you know, if we are going to go down, let's go down throwing a few punches. And sides are maybe being a little bit bolder. I also think that at times, with Doku, who doesn't play today, you know, Doku's brought something to Manchester City which is a little bit different with his unpredictability, but what he also brings is a little bit less control, which is what Pep really likes. So Grealish plays today on that left side, and we pretty much know what Grealish will do, don't we? And if he hasn't got a chance of beating a player, he'll actually roll the ball back and they'll retain possession. Whereas with Doku, for example, he tends to go for the opponent more often, and sometimes it breaks down from him.
Yeah, but at the same time, the quality they have is so big.
Yeah.
Whoever is going to play, Grealish, Doku, whoever, he have the confidence of Pep that he's going to do fine. And the opposition teams, they know that.
Yeah.
And I don't think they don't have a fear for City. Quite the opposite. I think they still have respect and fear going to City ground especially. But as we spoke, any team have ups and downs. And today, for example, as Guardiola said in the interviews, to stay close to the top, they need the points. And they have the means, the tools to do it. Sometimes ugly wins, sometimes really beautiful with many goals as well.
Is that the trade-off of this evolution that we're seeing under Pep Guardiola? Because, Gary, you brought up them, they have more direct players now in this Pep Guardiola side. Is that the trade-off that you don't get as much control and hence you are conceding a lot more? And then there's a bit of... Is this the evolution?
I think
this season?
City will never change in the way they play football. Guardiola loves this way of football. Pass, 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 since the day of Barcelona. Finding the space, finding the right space, finding the right moment to pass the ball. And because of this, when they control the ball, controlling the game basically, when the moment arrives, they need to give that risky pass sometime, that pass throughout the defense. And if that pass is cut off, then counter-attack, and they need to go back and defend. This is sometimes the risk they take, but I think it's a good risk to have, because the quality of the team is so big,
Yeah.
they can correct the mistakes while they're happening.
Did you feel they are a better side this season compared to last, or worse off? Because everyone's going to be going about how they can go on that 12-13 winning run come spring, which is what they're going to rely on, and they have relied on for the past few seasons. But when you have not just Arsenal now, who's competing at the top, you've got Liverpool, even Aston Villa, who's in the talks at the moment. You're not just competing with one other opposition, you're competing with multiple. Is the squad better than last season to be able to recoup the amount of drop points so far when it comes to that time of the season?
But especially in that time, coming closer to the way of the season, the experience starts to kick in my mind. Then when you've been in the same situation before, now you're more prepared to know how to handle the pressure.
And you're not panicking, you believe it?
Maybe you're not panicking, maybe you are, but you're not showing it because you don't want other players to get panicked as well. So you control the situation when you have experience.
You talk about experience. They've won 5 of the last 6 Premier Leagues. They've won the last 3. They have the credentials. And for me, I always say this, we try to compare and judge teams after 10 games, after 15 games, after 20 games. It's after 38 when it counts. And as I just told you, 5 out of 6 of the last Premier Leagues, Man City, that's when it counts.